Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I am Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Central Cabinet approves National Critical Minerals Mission to build a value chain vital for green technologies with an outlay of 163 billion Indian rupees. India's space agency ISRO scripts history with the successful launch of its 100th mission, places second-generation navigational satellite in orbit. And scientists move the Doomsday Clock closer to midnight than ever before, citing Russian nuclear threats, AI weaponization and climate change. Now, the Indian Space Research Organisation has achieved a historic milestone with the successful launch of its 100th mission from Sriharikota, carrying the NVS-02 satellite into orbit. Here's a report.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The Indian Space Research Organisation achieved a remarkable milestone on Wednesday with the successful launch of its 100th mission from Sriharikota. The GSLV F-15 rocket carrying the NVS-02 satellite lifted off from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh.
I am extremely happy to announce from the spaceport of ISRO that the first launch of this year, 2025, has been successfully accomplished.
GSLV F-15 very successfully executed its mission by placing the NVS-02 satellite into its precise geostationary transfer orbit. We mark a historic milestone, the 100th mission from Sriharikota, the spaceport of India.
The NVS-02 satellite is a navigation satellite equipped with payloads in L1, L5 and S bands, as well as a ranging payload in C band. With a lift-off mass of 2,250 kilograms and power handling capability of approximately 3 kilowatts, NVS-02 is designed to enhance India's indigenous navigation with Indian Constellation or NAVIC system.
Coming to NVS-02, it is the second satellite in the second generation of the navigation satellite series, NVS series, for the NAVIC constellation. Similar to its predecessor NVS-01, it has an indigenous atomic clock, which will showcase our capability in this very critical technology. Also, it has L1 band navigation signal, along with the heritage L5 and S signals. It will expand and widen our navigation services. The main mission objective of NVS-02 is to provide position, navigation and timing services for the Indian mainland and 1,500 kilometers surrounding it.
The NAVIC system is India's answer to global navigation satellite systems. It provides crucial position, velocity and timing services. ISRO's 100th launch from Sriharikota marks a significant achievement for the space agency. Since its first launch in 1979, ISRO has come a long way, achieving numerous historic milestones.
So this launch, this 100th launch by GSLV placing NVS-02 is going to significantly enhance the PNT services in the country and is going to contribute a lot to the science and technology. Again, it is a significant milestone for us, demonstrating our commitment for self-reliance and indigenous development.
The Indian Space Research Organisation has demonstrated its capabilities in launching satellites, spacecraft and other payloads into the orbit, and has established itself as a major player in the global space community. With inputs from Anabarsan Elango, Antara Sinha for DD India.
And DD India's Anabarsan Elango spoke with the ISRO chief, that's V. Narayanan, after the historic launch. The chief threw light on the journey of ISRO from 1979 and elaborated upon the latest GSLV F-15 launch.
ISRO has successfully launched the 100th mission. So what about the humble start from the 1979? We have reached right to the 100th mission.
No, it is a great starting. 1979 we had the first SLV-3 launch. After that, we have developed generations of launches, including ASLV, PSLV, GSLV, GSLVM3, SSLV. And with all these things, we have accomplished this mission. And through this rocket launches, we have accomplished important missions like Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2, Chandrayaan 3, Mars Orbiter landing mission, Mars Orbiter mission, and placing 104 satellite in a single mission, accomplishing space recovery experiment. Like a lot of things are done. Not only that, communication satellites, navigation satellites, remote sensing satellite, satellite for disaster warning and management, satellite for earth observation, satellite for resource management. Lot of things have been done through this 100.
The Union Cabinet recently cleared the third launch for the Sriharikota. Regarding that.
No, third launch pad is meant for sending the next generation launcher, which is 1000 kg lift-off mass, 91 meter height rocket. Also for improving the frequency of launch of the LVM3 rocket, plus for future human spaceflight program. So that already we got approval. In 4 years, we are going to complete the project.
Now, India's Union Cabinet has approved National Critical Mineral Mission to build a resilient value chain for critical mineral resources vital to green technologies with an outlay of 34,300 crores over 7 years. The National Critical Mineral Mission will encompass all stages of the value chain, including mineral exploration, mining, beneficiation, processing and recovery from end-of-life products.
आज माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स मिशन इसको आज अप्रूवल दिया है। 16,300 करोड़ रुपए का ये मिशन है। 16,300 करोड़ रुपए का मिशन है और 6 वर्षों तक ये मिशन का इनिशियल फेज रहेगा। 24 क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स को आइडेंटिफाई किया गया है। ये नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स मिशन से देश में एक बहुत बड़ी जो इंपोर्ट डिपेंडेंस थी वो खत्म होगी। आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनने में बहुत बड़ा ये स्टेप है और साथ ही साथ जो हमारी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी है, एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन है, उसको ये मिशन सिक्योर करेगा।
The Cabinet has also approved administered ex-mill price of ethanol derived from C-heavy molasses at 57 rupees 97 paise per litre under the ethanol blended petrol program for the ethanol supply year 2024-25. The remunerative prices for ethanol suppliers will also help in reducing dependency on crude oil imports. The government has also advanced the target of 20% ethanol blending in petrol from the earlier 2030 to ESY 2025-26.
सब जानते हैं कि एथेनॉल के उपयोग से देश में इकोनॉमी में बहुत बड़ा एक बेनिफिट हुआ है। किसानों के लिए भी फायदे में है, फॉरेन एक्सचेंज भी बचता है और एनवायरनमेंट को भी लाभ होता है। किसानों को केवल पिछले ही जो एथेनॉल सप्लाई ईयर यानी अक्टूबर तक सप्लाई होती है एथेनॉल की, उस ESY में 40,000 करोड़ रुपए का पिछले साल बेनिफिट हुआ है।
And now to all the latest from the Maha Kumbh, the largest gathering of humans anywhere on the planet. Now, millions of devotees continue to visit Prayagraj to take a holy dip on the auspicious occasion of Mauni Amavasya on Wednesday. Authorities have issued an advisory asking all devotees to treat the ghats as equal to the Sangam and avoid any rush or misinformation of any kind. Elaborate security and crowd management systems are in place at the Mela site to assist the devotees. Traffic advisory of the police is also in place for Prayagraj to ensure proper crowd management. Meanwhile, a mishap has been reported from the Kumbh. Prime Minister Modi has spoken to UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and is continuously monitoring the situation. Now, India's Prime Minister has expressed his deepest condolences to the devotees who've lost their loved ones and wished a speedy recovery for all those who've been injured.
मैं महाकुंभ में जो दुखद हादसा हुआ है, उस हादसे में हमें कुछ पुण्यात्माओं को खोना पड़ा है, कई लोगों को चोटें भी आई हैं। मैं प्रभावित परिवारों के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं और घायलों के जल्द स्वस्थ होने की कामना करता हूं। मैं यूपी सरकार के साथ निरंतर संपर्क में हूं।
President of India Draupadi Murmu, in a social media post on X, expressed her sadness at the tragedy at the Maha Kumbh. She expressed her condolences to the families of the injured devotees and wished for the speedy recovery of all those who've been injured. The results of the best marching contingents and tableau of India's Republic Day Parade 2025 have been announced. 3 panels of judges were constituted to assess the performance of the marching contingents. The best marching contingent among services was awarded to Jammu and Kashmir Rifles contingent. Best marching contingent among CAPFs and other auxiliary forces was awarded to Delhi Police Marching Contingent. The top 3 tableaux among the states and union territories were given to Uttar Pradesh, Tripura and Andhra Pradesh. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a visit to the UAE, has met Raisina US-India AI Fellows along with members of Raisina India US Task Force on Responsible AI in Abu Dhabi on Wednesday. Dr. Jaishankar also interacted with members of the ORF Middle East Think Tank Council in Abu Dhabi. The External Affairs Minister shared pictures on X. He called the meeting a welcome initiative for fostering greater exchange of ideas and perspectives in the Indian subcontinent and the Middle East region. Let's now take a look at some other stories making the news today. Well, Chief Minister of the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh, Mohan Yadav, held multiple meetings with Japan's business persons and industrialists, strengthening ties and attracting investments to the state. The Chief Minister showcased Madhya Pradesh's readiness to become a hub for medical device manufacturing, further deepening economic discussions and exploring collaborative opportunities. An anti-narcotics operation conducted by the Indian Coast Guard station Mandapam near the Indo-Sri Lankan IMBL on Wednesday. During the operation, a total of 12 packets of cannabis were seized, weighing 53.62 kgs worth 66 million INR. Devotees performed morning rituals in Tiruchirappalli in Tamil Nadu, taking a holy dip in the river Kaveri on the occasion of Thai Amavasya. The day marks the new moon in the Tamil month of Thai and holds great spiritual importance for devotees. India's Minister of Textiles Giriraj Singh inaugurated Handloom Conclave Manthan at Dr. Ambedkar International Centre in New Delhi. The conclave aims to make handloom sector Atmanirbhar or self-reliant through innovative technological solutions and to create a brand image for Indian handloom products in the global market. The Doomsday Clock has moved closer to midnight than ever before. On Tuesday, atomic scientists set the symbolic clock to 89 seconds to midnight, signaling an unprecedented level of global risk. The bulletin of the atomic scientists cited Russia's nuclear threats amid the Ukraine conflict, rising geopolitical tensions, military use of artificial intelligence and climate change as key factors driving the danger. The clock, first introduced in 1947 during the Cold War, serves as a stark warning of how close humanity is to potential catastrophe. This latest adjustment brings it 1 second closer to midnight than last year's setting. US President Donald Trump's administration has made several significant moves, including offering federal workers a buyout option, cutting transgender healthcare funding, and attempting to freeze federal aid. Executive orders will have dramatic impact on federal agencies, contractors and grantees, and so uncertainty about voluntary DEI initiatives. Let's listen into the details in this report.
President Trump's string of executive orders continue unabated, and they continue to surprise, shock and create a flutter in political circles and elsewhere. Among the many executive orders addressing wide-ranging areas are 2 specifically targeted at diversity, equity, inclusion and accessibility.
President Trump is hard at work fulfilling the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Since taking the oath of office, President Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, secured nearly $1 trillion in U.S. investments, deported illegal alien rapists, gang members, and suspected terrorists from our homeland, and restored common sense to the federal government.
A new deferred resignation program has been introduced, offering federal employees the option to leave their jobs with a severance package of up to 8 months' pay. Under the program, federal workers would remain on the payroll through September 30th, but wouldn't be required to work. Employees have until Feb 6 to decide whether to participate in the program. Donald Trump also signed an executive order to restrict gender transition procedures for people under the age of 19. The order comes the week after Trump said in his inauguration speech that his government would recognize two genders, male and female. Trump's order said it would now be US policy that it would not fund, sponsor, promote, assist or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another. Meanwhile, in a major legal development, a federal judge has temporarily blocked President Trump's attempt to freeze hundreds of billions of dollars in federal aid. The court has scheduled a review of the case for Monday. The White House press secretary Karoline Leavitt said that the funding pause was temporary in nature and said the administration would provide a list of affected programs later.
This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that.
Federal spending includes more than $3 trillion in financial assistance like grants and loans in fiscal year 2024, all of which was approved by Congress. Bureau Report, DD India.
US President Donald Trump has kicked in a major change to the way press briefings are organized in the White House. Accreditations have been so far reserved for the correspondents of leading news networks in both print and TV. Now, Team Trump has decided to add podcasters and TikTokers to the exclusive list.
There is a change that many thought was sure to come. Donald Trump's new press secretary has invited podcasters to apply for White House press passes. Karoline Leavitt's first interaction with the media grabbed instant headlines as she announced additional seat for new media voices. The seat has been reserved at the front of the cramped briefing room. President Trump credits a series of podcast appearances for aiding his return to the White House.
We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House.
The shakeup was expected after President's son, Donald Trump Jr., talked in November about opening up the press room. The 49 seats in the room are allotted to a number of news organizations that are members of the White House Correspondents Association. The new press secretary also promised to hold reporters accountable for what she said were lies about Trump. Trump sidestepped interviews with some major US TV networks during the election campaign, opting instead to speak to several popular podcasts, including the Joe Rogan Experience. Bureau Report, TD India.
Now, in a rapidly deteriorating situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the key city of Goma is on the brink of falling to M23 rebels backed by Rwanda. On Wednesday, DRC President Felix Tshisekedi was set to meet with Rwandan President Paul Kagame at an emergency summit in Kenya as international pressure mounts to end the violence. Here's a report by DD India's Harshita Oberoi.
The crisis in eastern Congo has reached a critical point. M23 rebel forces, reportedly supported by Rwanda, seized control of Goma's airport, cutting off vital aid supplies to hundreds of thousands of displaced people. M23 is tightening its grip on the provincial capital. The streets are littered with bodies following a brutal offensive that forced Congolese troops into retreat. As violence escalated, protests broke out in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa, with demonstrators storming UN offices and foreign embassies blaming foreign intervention for the unrest. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio urged an immediate ceasefire and called for all parties to respect the DRC's sovereignty. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urgently spoken with the presidents of Congo and Rwanda, seeking a path to peace. But UN officials warn the crisis, ranging for decades, will not be solved overnight.
The situation in Goma remains tense and rather fluid. M23 forces, we are told, are inside the city, and UN peacekeeping personnel and troops have largely been forced to shelter in their bases.
The United States has urged the UN Security Council to take action against Rwanda and M23 rebels. For the people of Goma, the consequences are devastating. UN officials describe the civilian suffering as unimaginable.
The degree of suffering that the population in Goma and its environments is enduring is truly unimaginable.
DRC accuses Rwanda of seeking to profit from the region's rich mineral resources, including gold, cotton, copper, and cobalt. Congo has called for sanctions on Rwanda, but Rwanda continues to deny involvement. From the United Nations Charter to international humanitarian law to human rights, and also the Luanda and Nairobi peace processes, Rwanda has proven time and again that your statements mean absolutely nothing.
I'd like to also recall that Rwanda has always shown restraint and sought to engage the DRC in dealing with the root causes of insecurity in the region and along our common border.
As gunfire and explosions echoed through the city overnight, thousands of refugees, along with Congolese soldiers seeking asylum, fled across the border into Rwanda. The Rwandan government has opened its doors, processing the influx of refugees, but the future remains uncertain for many. Harshita Oberoy's report for DD India.
And in further update, hundreds of foreign nationals, including World Bank staff, have crossed the border into Rwanda from Goma on Wednesday as evacuations and civilian displacement continue amid conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. This comes after M23 fighters, backed by Rwanda, appear on the brink of seizing control over eastern Congo's largest city, which is Goma. Now, with only weeks left until the federal election in Germany, political parties are campaigning and calling for reforms they think will resonate with voters. Let's look at one proposed reform, which is tightening inheritance tax and reforming wealth tax. For more on how things are currently running, we've got DW's correspondent Wada Imran in Berlin joining us. Good evening to you, Wada. Let's start with the inheritance tax. Is Germany strict with that?
Thanks for having me. Much of Germany's billionaires inherited their wealth. Germany has a dynasty-style business sector and properties which are handed down generations. And they avoid paying much tax on it, and they're successful. On paper, the current inheritance law aims to tax 7 to 50% of the inheritance. However, rarely is it in practice. One way to avoid this is to put your wealth in a business or a family company. And so you can abscond this inheritance tax by saying the wealth is invested. Another way is to claim an exemption based on need. So let's say if you're to inherit 26 million euros and you don't have the money to pay the tax to collect this inheritance, then you can claim a need-based exemption. The argument is that you are needy for the money and can't afford the tax. So there are various loopholes that allow the ultra-rich to avoid paying inheritance tax. And sometimes what they do pay is very little, to the tune of 1 to 3%. So I would say it's definitely not strict enough.
All right, Wada. And then taxing the ultra-rich is a big challenge as well. Now, would a reform in the law bring a change in practice?
Well, it really depends on how keen the government is on collecting tax, like the wealth tax or this inheritance tax we're talking about. Speaking about a wealth tax, for 100 years, Germany had a wealth tax and it was successful. And then in 1997, it was suspended. and kind of never picked back up again. According to German state media ZDF, Germans have around 18 trillion euros in private wealth. The SPD, which is current Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party, has said they want to reactivate this tax on wealth and tighten the inheritance tax so they can add billions to the government spending. Other major parties like the Greens or the BSW party also propose fixing the inheritance tax system and expect 3 billion euros annually. However, there are parties like the far-right AFD that want to slash annual inheritance tax revenues by billions. If such a policy is successful, the divide between the rich and the poor would significantly increase, which would have dire consequences for the German people and the economy.
Well, certainly very important issues to be considered before voting day in Germany. Wada Imran, thank you for joining us from Berlin. And as elections come closer, how is the economy faring
for this year and the next? Previously, Economy Minister Robert Habeck had said 2025 would bring about 1.1% growth for Europe's largest economy. However, that has also been revised to just 0.3% growth. These low forecasts do mean that the government will have more budget leeway, in the sense that they will be able to borrow more to help the economy prop back up. However, the BDI, which is the Federation of German Industries, has a more pessimistic tone and thinks the GDP will shrink by 0.1%. There are many uncertainties like potential high tariffs from the US, the outcome of this election, the budget for 2025, and where the government will spend and where it will save. For now, it seems 2025 will not be the year the economy picks back up.
Right, it doesn't sound great right now. Thanks for joining us, Wada, from Berlin. Now let's take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. Rescue operation is underway in Japan's Saitama prefecture to save a 74-year-old truck driver stuck in a sinkhole for more than 24 hours. This comes after a truck fell into a 5-meter deep sinkhole at a traffic junction on Tuesday. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro announced that a public debate will begin on the 15th of next month. The debate will discuss the changes to the constitution that Maduro began promoting soon after his third term began. Hundreds of people in Scotland's Shetland Islands took part in a historic Viking ship with burning torches. Ancient ritual dating back more than 140 years is held annually on the last Tuesday of January. Australia's Sydney celebrated the first day of a Lunar New Year with traditional lion dance. The ceremony marks a traditional mock-up lion dance where locals dressed up as snakes. The coming year is alluded as the Year of the Snake. For the first time, Uttarakhand has become the centre of India's biggest sporting event, the 38th National Games. Competitions are being held across 11 venues. Locals are excited about the National Games being held in Uttarakhand. Here's an exclusive report by DD India's Narayan Singh on how the hill state of India is buzzing with excitement.
Like a river carving its path through the mountains, Uttarakhand is making history by hosting the 38th National Games. The state is hosting the Games for the first time. Competitions are being held at 11 venues across the state. The venues are decorated with paintings, banners and hoardings. The atmosphere is so vibrant and electrifying that it gives the feeling of a grand international event. The people of Uttarakhand are also excited about hosting of the Games in the state. They believe the Games will boost the state's economy and bring new opportunities.
This platform can provide businesses an opportunity to showcase their products, etc. Example, people from throughout the nation, from different states will come to Uttarakhand and will participate in this program. And they also have basic requirements, so it will automatically boost the businesses. Second, infrastructure development. We need grounds to play. We need platforms to play. So this will also lead to the development of the infrastructure, and it will help in the long term of the state. Third is tourism development. Uttarakhand is a hub of tourism. It is also known as Devbhoomi, as we all know. Millions of people come every year in terms of tourism, mainly religious tourism.
That's all for the moment in this edition of DD.